Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for His Excellency, the President of the State of Israel, Mr. Moshe Katsav and Mrs. Katsav, accompanied by Professor Itamar Rabinovich, President of Tel Aviv University, and Mr. Dan David, founder of the Dan David Prize. Good evening and welcome to the Dan David Prize awarding ceremony. Listening to Do Not Go by Rabindranath Tagore, based on Prelude No. 1 by Johann Sebastian Bach, with music composed by Shlomo Gronich, one of Israel's leading musicians and performers.
Thank you, Rona. Rona Tamir is a student of history at Tel Aviv University. She has been awarded the Rector's Prize for Excellence. She is also a promising young actress, and she'll be our mistress of ceremonies tonight.
very good evening to all of you. We would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our guests who have gathered here at Tel Aviv University in the presence of the President of Israel, Mr. Moshe Katsav, to honor the laureates of the Dan David Prize for 2003. Their achievements represent all those who have labored since antiquity to enrich humanity with knowledge, research, and discovery, forever extending our horizons. Good evening to the academic community of Tel Aviv University, to the members of the Board of Governors, and to all our distinguished guests. This is the second year that the Dan David Prize is being awarded. Tonight, representatives of the international academic and artistic community will be honored with this prestigious prize for their achievements in the fields of paleoanthropology, media, and cosmology and astronomy. These fields have been chosen by the board of the Dan David Prize to represent the three dimensions of the past, the present, and the future.
Work produces money, but money is not an aim in itself. Money is a measure of success, of creation, like Celsius degrees to measure temperature. That's all. We have to put money to good work. I received so much from the world. I want to give something back. And that's the use of the money I created during the last 42 years. Part of what I created during those 42 years will now contribute to show us what we can learn from our past, what we can understand the present in which we are living, and how we can dream about the future, how we can work to achieve a better future for our and for future generations. The honoree of this year symbolizes perfectly the spirit of the prize, the past, present, and future time dimensions of humanity. 7 million years have gone from Tumai, who saw the sun rising on the sky and didn't understand what this light was, to Professor Bokol, who advanced our knowledge in astrophysics and unveiled the secrets of this light. Between the past and the future, the two honorees of our present captured the images of our time, making sure that future generations will inherit the knowledge of our present and become aware of its implications. I like to dream. I dream at night about my work. I dream about what I could create the next day. I daydream. If I were to daydream, I could say that having a few Nachtways and a few wise men around during the 7 million years in which Tumai evolved into modern man would have been really fascinating. And today, who can tell the heights to which, not in the next 7 million years, but in the next 1,000 years, the power of man over matter may be carried. It could make us regret that we were born too soon. What a beautiful view from here on Yafo, one of the oldest cities still inhabited on Earth. And what a good introduction to the prize for the past time dimension of the next year, 2004. Cities, historical legacy.
I am honored to call upon the President of the State of Israel, Mr. Moshe Katsav.
נשיא אוניברסיטת תל אביב, פרופסור איתמר רבינוביץ', גבי ודן דוד, רקטור האוניברסיטה, פרופסור שמעון ינקילביץ', חתני הפרס, מכובדיי. Congratulations to the winners of the David Prize. I praise you for your success in your academic and research activity and for your contribution to the benefit of the humankind. I am very glad to participate here in this ceremony, to be with the best of the best, and to express my appreciation, personal appreciation, deep gratitude of the State of Israel, of the people of Israel, and I believe of the international community, for the University of Tel Aviv, to the family of Dan David. The importance of this prize is because of your prestige, is because of your significant contribution to the humanity. Your research activity promises a better future for the next generation. The ceremony tonight here in Tel Aviv University is very important to you, but it's very important to the free world, to the modern world, democratic world, to the humanity. It has already high reputation because of the better understanding of the past, better present, and better future. The past, the Israeli people, the Israeli nation has glorious past because our contribution to the humankind, because we provide to the world the book of the books and the human universal values. Our people kept our heritage, spiritual heritage, during thousands of years in spite of the suffering, exiles, Inquisition, and the terrible Holocaust. The present, the rebirth of State of Israel by the Jewish people after 2,000 years of suffering in our original country with our original language of the Bible, is indeed a historical miracle. In the future, the hope, the desire to develop new horizons for better understanding, to reduce the suffering of the humanity, and I believe that by doing that we can solve the basic problems of the humanity. I belong to those who believe that the world was created complete, and you should not invent anything. I believe that all the scientific solutions of the humankind problems exist in the universe, and no one should invent anything, but the scientists should discover and uncover all which already exists to bring to the humanity better life. The State of Israel invested a lot since our independence in science, and we continue to cultivate the new talent of the young generation and the talent of the new immigrants who immigrated to Israel since our independence. The achievements of Israel in science are indeed one of the most important achievements of Israel since our independence 55 years ago. The Israeli science gave us high reputation around the world, and I believe that our scientific community in Israel and our research and development stand on very highest standard at the international level. Our economic infrastructure for Israel is also based on research and development. Unfortunately, humankind still exists energy, resources, time to fight against the international terrorism. I believe that the fight against international terrorism will end successfully, and then we can invest all our resources, energy, and time to solve the real problem of the humankind. International terrorism is still a big danger for the stability and peace in the world. There is no any country around the world who has immunity from terrorism. Terrorism has no limitation, has no borders, and the free world should fight with determination against the international terrorism in the field of military, justice, economy, and politically. We should give to the humankind the right to live without any fear from terrorism. The real problem of the humanity are poverty, difficult illness, disease, and ecological disasters. Albert Einstein said, "Concern for man and his faith must be always the subject of all scientific efforts." Indeed, humankind should do as much as possible to enlarge significantly the resources to progress of the research academy. The international community of science at the 21st century has very big responsibility, maybe more responsibility comparing to any other time in the history of the humankind. On one hand, the research reached to historical achievements, but on the other hand, there are still very big problems in the field of poverty and difficult illness. The scientific research can bring blessing to the humanity, but also to destruction and disaster. We already have seen how the science research brings to the humanity disasters and difficulties and suffering. We saw it not just in the past, we can see it even at the beginning of the 21st century when the scientists helped for destruction and death. I believe that today the international leadership are more open to hear, to listen to the scientists, to developing new strategy in the world. Governments around the world are ready today, more comparing to the past, to understand and to be helpful with the scientists to solve the problem of the humankind. The potential of the research and developing is not constant. We need all our efforts and tools to invest, to enlarge and increase the research and develop field. The progressing of the science is precondition of stable economy and for developing of the new world in the future. In our generation, the strength of the economy is based not just on the natural resources, but also on the developing of science and technology and their ability to progressing high-tech industry. I believe that science development could replace natural resources. I believe and hope that the humanity will be blessed by your researches, from your achievements, for the benefit of the humankind. I wish you all success, satisfaction in your researches. Indeed, you are proud of the humankind. Thank you very much.
We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark, says the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. The real tragedy of life is when grown-ups are afraid of the light. The Dan David Prize seeks to encourage innovative research that cuts across traditional boundaries, to foster universal values of excellence and creativity, and to promote science for the advancement and improvement of our world. Our laureates this year embody all those aims. Their achievements manifest the scientific search for truth about our past, the documentation through images of the present-day human condition, and the investigation of universal phenomena and their significance for the future. Their achievements also manifest man's quest for eternal truth, a quest which blends with the spiritual and is, in essence, a form of art. There is beauty in science, and it is art we see in our laureates' photographs and films. If science is indeed the quest for truth, and art is beauty, then let the Dan David Prize of 2003 be remembered in the words of Keats. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all you know on earth, and all you need to know. Please welcome Professor Itamar Rabinovich, the president of Tel Aviv University, who is also the chairperson of the International Board of the Dan David Prize.
Thank you. President and Mrs. Katsav, Gabi and Dan David, the rector and my colleagues to the university, governors, dear laureates, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to address you briefly on the theme of the second year challenge. Last year was the first year in which the Dan David Prize, the prizes were awarded. This was the year in which an idea was translated into an ongoing concern. What began as an idea in the mind of Dan David proceeded with a conversation in my office, was translated into the construction of a board, of a set of panels, of an office here at the university, and it ended with the award ceremony a year ago in which the first prizes were awarded. It went well. In a brief span of time, the prize was in place, the choices were good, and we felt good about last year's event. But here came the second year challenge. What do we do for the second year? How do we continue in the tradition? Where do we want to create a tradition? Where do we want to innovate? There are three elements that go into the making of a major international prize: identity, quality, and recognition. Identity is, I think, is an issue, a theme or a term that speaks for itself, and I think we heard very clearly Dan David speaking to us from the screens, explaining exactly what he had in mind. This gave the prize its original identity, and it should occupy its place on the map of international prizes, and hopefully a very prominent place, as a prize that has an underlying philosophy and a clear identity. Quality has to be created, and quality has to be kept. And quality is determined first and foremost by the choice of the laureates, and then by the quality of the process. It has to be a serious, transparent process. The world must realize that this is not a prize given away at the whim of an individual or a group, but is the culmination of a serious, transparent process. And I believe that we have that, and I believe that for the second year in a row, we have an excellent team or group of laureates. And recognition. If you do all of that, if you establish the identity, if you keep the quality, and you go and recognize, what's the point? There is a great competition for space in the international media, and we must occupy our space and get for the prize and for the laureates and for the whole enterprise the degree of recognition. Obviously, recognition doesn't come soon. This has to repeat itself a number of times, hopefully not too many times, for the prize to be fully known and appreciated in the world. It is already much better known this year than it was last year. The coverage in Israel and abroad has been good, and hopefully from now on will be even better, and the prize will establish its place, its recognized place in the universe of major international prizes, and accomplish the mission that we have all set for ourselves. And there will also be spin-offs about which a little later in the evening. And now I'd like to offer a vote of thanks, first and foremost to Dan David for creating the prize and for continuing to support and make it possible. To President Moshe Katsav of the state for becoming, if I may use the term, a friend of the prize, coming the second year in a row to be with us in this ceremony, and this year also inviting the Board of Governors of Tel Aviv University to a reception at his residence to celebrate the prize. To the board, our international board, that invests its prestige and creativity in selecting the areas and in finalizing the choice of laureates. To the panels who have done excellent work. To the directors of the prize, the first director, Professor Gad Barzilai, and the current director, Professor Irad Malki, and to the office that works very hard at Tel Aviv University, and for you for coming every year, this second year, to this ceremony. Without you, the ceremony would have been meaningless. So here we are, dealing with the second year challenge and looking forward to May 2004 to the third year challenge. Thank you.
For 70 years, the history of man's origins have been sought on African soil. On February 7, 1925, Dr. Raymond Dart described finding a fossilized skull in South Africa. It was 2 million years old. He called it Australopithecus, the southern ape. Dart was convinced he'd discovered the missing link between apes and man. His find marked the start of a huge hunt for human fossils. Hundreds of scientists have taken part. In less than 50 years, more than 3,000 hominid fossils have been found along the Rift Valley. The oldest of them was discovered in eastern Africa. The scientific community now believes mankind took its first steps on the soil of East Africa. But 2,500 kilometers west of mankind's birthplace, the paleontologist Michel Brunet is excavating in the desert of Chad. He's looking for evidence that could challenge the standard assumptions. On January 23, 1995, a fragment of Australopithecus jawbone was blown in on the wind. It was several million years old. This discovery called everything into question. It marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of our origins. The science faculty at the University of Poitiers. Everything began in this paleontology lab. Between expeditions to Africa, Professor Michel Brunet lectures on how we can use fossils to see into the past.
I'm going to show you a genuine Australopithecus. You won't have seen one of them very often. I started off calling this type Abel, before giving it the official name Australopithecus barrel-ghazali. We're getting ready to leave again in a few days' time, and we hope to find more like it. The other day a kid said to me, "Is that all it is?" It's not much, it's true, but we hope to find more.
Professor Itamar Rabinovich will read from the recommendations of the review committee for awarding the prize.
I promised a spin-off, so let me begin with one. Before I read out the words of the review committee regarding Professor Brunet, it is with pleasure that I relate to you an important and particularly inspiring outcome of last year's Dan David Prize. I'm referring to the collaboration on the human genome between Israeli and Palestinian academics of Tel Aviv University and Bethlehem University. Sir John Solston, one of the winners of the Dan David Prize for 2002, donated $100,000 of his prize money to the joint program for Bethlehem University graduates to pursue a postgraduate degree at Tel Aviv University. Professor Karen Abraham, Professor Moin Kanaan, and Brother Neil, the academic vice president of Bethlehem University, are all here with us, and may I ask them to stand up and be recognized. Professor Karen Abraham and Professor Moin Kanaan's student, Hashem Shaheen of Bethlehem, together they are pulling down barriers to our understanding of the genome, in addition to those barring the way to understanding of one another. May this be just one of the many positive contributions of the Dan David Prize to our world in years to come. The Dan David Prize is awarded to Professor Brunet for his efforts at encouraging education, developing cooperation, and for organization and pursuit of prolonged and intensive multidisciplinary field investigation. These have resulted in wholly new, unexpected, and extensive documentation of geological history and attendant extensive fossil record of Sahelian Africa during the Upper Tertiary. These revelations and their magnitude are of major significance for elucidation of the African natural world surrounding the initial appearance and earliest evolution of humankind, whose oldest known representatives are found there. These remarkable discoveries cast human origins in a very new perspective and have and will profoundly impact the pursuit of human evolutionary studies for decades to come. Signed, Professor Ofer Bar Yosef, Chairperson of the Paleontological Review Committee, Professor F. Clark Howell, Professor Leslie C. Aiello, members.
Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Michel Marc Brunet.
Excellence, Mr. President of the State of Israel, Mr. President of the Dan David Foundation and Prize, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very great pleasure to say a lot of thanks to the Dan David Foundation, to the board, and to the organization committee. Thanks for having allowed my presence here today in Tel Aviv University. It has been a great and so wonderful surprise. I want to say that it is a great honor and a great pleasure to be an international laureate of the Dan David Prize. The researching regarding hominid origin are led with my team, the MPFT, in French, Mission Paléoanthropologique Franco-Tchadienne. An international and transdisciplinary team of about 60 researchers from 10 countries. Today, it's very, very important for me to share this great honor with all my team, with all the people, colleagues and friends who have participated at this human and scientific adventure which began in Afghanistan in the 70s and in West Africa in the 80s. I would have a particular thought to those of my colleagues and friends who died dramatically too early. A particular thought also to my Chadian friends and colleagues, but also to all the institutions which have helped us till now. University of Poitiers, French CNRS, CNAR and University of Jamena, and all the French and Chadian authorities. As you know, we are digging in the Jourab Herg, northern Chad, where we have found Toumaï, Sahelanthropus chadensis, the earliest hominid, 7 million years old. It means not far from the divergence between chimp and us. And 2,500 kilometers west of the rift. It's a great pleasure to show you the cast of Toumaï, the earliest hominid, our ancestor. Clearly, the Dan David Prize is going to be decisive. For the desert, we need a lot of logistics, but it's also very important from an international point of view to help the hominid origin research. And for the moment, I am more particularly thinking to my young colleague and to all the young researchers we represent the future and shall allow us to understand more and more about our origin and our history. Finally, I want to say another deep thanks to the Dan David Prize Foundation, both for the international great honor and decisive help to the research I lead with the MPFT on hominid origin. Thanks a lot.
creation is a marvel, and man its masterpiece. He scuds before the southern wind, between the pounding, white-peeling swells. He drives his thoroughbreds through earth, great goddess inexhaustible, and overturns her with the plow, unfolding her from year to year. The light-balanced, slight-headed birds he snares, wild beasts of every kind. In his nets, the deep-sea fish are caught. O mastery of men! The free forest animal he herds, the roaming upland deer, the shaggy horse he breaks to yoke, the unflagging mountain bull. Training his thoughts, volatile as air, he's civilized the world of words and wit and law. With the roof against the sky, the javelin crystal frosts, the arrow-lancing rains, he's fertile in resource, provident for all, healing all disease, all but death. And death he never cures. Death he never cures. I would like to call upon Professor Irad Malkin, an expert in ancient Greek civilization, who also happens to be the director of the Dan David Prize.
Thank you, Rona. The Dan David Prize is an international prize, and therefore we hold it this evening in the English language for the benefit of the world, our guests. However, we have chosen to give to you a sample of Israeli original artistic creation, both in music, in choreography, in theater, and, as you will see towards the end of the evening, an amalgamation of that really encapsulate the essence of this country in terms of its melting pot of immigration. Tonight we are giving out prizes, recognizing achievements that transcend our normal human horizon of expectations. We are not simply impressed, we are in awe of how our laureates, each in his own way, touched upon profound truths. But why a prize? Well, in classical Greece, a prize could be given for poetry, for music, for athletics. There were no second prizes in the Greek Olympics. The laureates were unique in the moment of victory, since in that moment, short and fleeting as it was, they transcended the normal human horizon of expectations. For that moment, they were like the gods. It was almost as if they were immortal. For what, after all, is the difference between men and gods, those keepers of eternal truths of the universe? Ancient Greeks were similar to ancient Hebrews in that respect. In the book of Genesis, man and woman, having eaten from the tree of knowledge, were expelled from the Garden of Eden. Why? Because, and the reason is spelled out, lest they eat from the tree of life and be just as ourselves. In other words, it is not knowledge. It is neither the potential for knowledge that differentiates between man and the divine, but immortality, eating from the tree of life. The ancient Greeks had similar views and some frustrations. The gods, who at all the times in the world had unlimited access to knowledge. We humans, we have the potential for knowledge, but what little time to pursue it. We just heard in Sophocles' Antigone that death is the one thing that man cannot cure. No one can cross into immortality, except perhaps during those certain moments, such as those in which people acknowledge with awe the transcendent achievements of prize laureates. In ancient Greece, the laureates were celebrated in poetry, in famous victory odes composed in their honor. The greatest poet of the time, Pindar, sang for them. And it was that poetry that transformed that short and fleeting moment into immortality. Because we still read, appreciate, and admire that poetry today. Ancient poetry was the media of antiquity. Ancient poetry circulated, like the media, telling of war, the wretchedness of society, or of prize laureates. And just as ancient poetry itself, not just its content, became important, a subject for admiration and for study, so too modern media has grown and transformed from being identified merely with what it reports. It too has become a subject for admiration and study. Today, we have neither a Homer nor a Hesiod to sing of war or of social injustice. But we do have a James Snachtway and a Frederick Wiseman doing the same, expressing the best and the most original in modern media, combining truth with art. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we give out prizes. Tonight we give out prizes to our laureates. Although we do not garland their heads with laurel leaves, we still call them, as the Greeks did, laureates. Tonight we recognize that if they have not become immortal, at least they have touched upon immortal truths.
I'm very pleased to be one of the recipients of this year's Dan David Prize. I've been asked to say a few things about my personal history, and generally I'm quite reluctant to do that because I think I'm best understood through my films. As to personal history, I'm 73 years old. I've been making movies since 1966. The last 37 years, over that time I've made 34 movies. I have been married for 48 years. My wife is a professor of law. I have two sons, one of whom is a lawyer and the other whom is a computer expert. When I make the movies, I think I'm a different person, and I think that person is best defined by what I think I look like when I make the movies. I'm not going to bore you with holding up this mask for the rest of this short interview, but I just want to suggest the illusion that I'm trying to create as a filmmaker. And now back to my creased face. What I've been trying to do in these movies is to give a sense of what contemporary American life is like. And I pick institutions, not so much because I'm so interested in institutions, but because institutions provide a framework. They serve the same function as the lines or the net do in a tennis court. And I try to have an intensive look at one place over a period of 6 or 8 weeks, and during which time I accumulate about 100 hours of film, and then I spend about a year trying to find the story and present it in terms of a film that has a dramatic structure. And it's the old cliche about finding the statue under the stone. I tried to find the film under the 100 hours of rushes. I spent most of my time in this room editing, and I think those of you who are interested in me will learn much more about me by looking at some of the movies and by listening to me talk about myself.
The Dan David Prize for the present time dimension is divided between two people. I will read the preamble of the review committee's statement and continue with its arguments for giving the prize for Mr. Frederick Wiseman. I quote, "The review committee sought a winner whose work was not only excellent, but also transcendentally innovative and fired with social purpose, thus expressing the ideas of the Dan David Prize. This criterion is directly relevant for the two winners of the Dan David Prize in the present dimension of print and electronic media for 2003. Frederick Wiseman is widely acclaimed as the most important person ever to lift the camera for documentary filmmaking. His first film, the 1967 Titicut Follies, remade the whole genre of non-fiction film, introducing path-breaking innovations such as the lack of a narrator, a spare and honest cinematography, and a narrative line that resembled a Hollywood film in its dramatic development, even though the story was entirely true. Perhaps Wiseman's most important contribution, however, has been his insistence on journalistic non-intervention in every frame of his films. Following this doctrine, Wiseman led the creation of non-fiction cinéma vérité that was often painful to watch, but always informative, moving, and engaging. He influenced thousands of film directors and producers. Wiseman has that rare gift of being able to arrange facts with the hand of an artist, to organize the world as if he were operating with a novelist's pen. But if that gift for storytelling is what brings viewers to his films and keeps them there, what devastates them is the fact that what they are watching is true. In 32 non-fiction films, he has tackled subjects such as the education for the disabled, the view of America from abroad, and most notably the criminal justice system. 2 of his films were designated as national treasures by the United States Library of Congress. Wiseman films give the powerless voices. In all of his work, Wiseman makes us reckon with our own emotions, the cost of society marginalizing those who cannot speak for themselves. To do that, while at the same time inventing a genre of filmmaking that makes such messages possible, seems worthy of the Dan David Prize.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Frederick Wiseman.
Thank you, President Katzar, Mr. and Mrs. David, President Rabinovich. I'm very pleased and honored to be here tonight and to receive this prize. And I can't help but think a little bit. My parents, my father, who came to America when he was 5 years old from Kiev, or a little town near Kiev, I don't know where. And my mother, who was one of 9 children and the only one born in the United States. My father went to work to support his family when he was 7 years old and was a newspaper boy and a streetcar conductor, and then the last 60 years of his life a practicing lawyer in Boston. And my mother always wanted to be an actress, and she was admitted to the American National Theater Academy in 1917, but my New England Jewish Puritan grandfather wouldn't let her go because only whores became actresses. But as a result of that frustration, she introduced me to documentary, because every day when I came home from school, she would mimic everybody that she met during the day, so that I had my living theater at home from as early as I can remember. And so it seemed a natural progression for me to start to make documentary films. And I was lucky enough to start a few years after technical innovations made it possible to make a film about anything as long as there was ordinary light. And the idea was a simple one. The subject, I think, of my films, the subject that unites my films, I think, is ordinary experience. And I think if one is patient enough and hangs around long enough, you can find in ordinary experience events as funny, as sad, as tragic, as those that exist in great theater or great novels. And the documentary filmmaker isn't responsible for inventing those events the way a novelist or a playwright might be, or a poet, but our job is to recognize what happens in front of us, and then to try and organize it in some kind of dramatic form, that conveys the nature of that experience to other people. And that's what I've been fortunate enough to be able to do in these series of films about contemporary American life. While I've made a number of them, there are probably 5 or 6 million more good subjects that I probably won't get around to before the ultimate healing. But I certainly am going to try and continue, and receiving this prize certainly makes it possible for me to continue. I think, as that little video demonstrated, and as I've indicated in the last few minutes, speech is not my language, so I want to thank you, and I'm very pleased to receive the award.
In a war, the normal codes of civilized behavior are suspended. It would be unthinkable in so-called normal life to go into someone's home where the family is grieving over the death of a loved one and spend long moments photographing them. It simply wouldn't be done. Those pictures could not have been made unless I was accepted by the people I'm photographing. It's simply impossible to photograph moments such as those without the complicity of the people I'm photographing, without the fact that they welcomed me, that they accepted me, that they wanted me to be there. They understand that a stranger who's come there with a camera to show the rest of the world what is happening to them gives them a voice in the outside world that they otherwise wouldn't have. They realize that they are the victims of some kind of injustice, of some kind of unnecessary violence. And by allowing me there to photograph it, they're making their own appeal to the outside world and to everyone's sense of right and wrong. I try my best to approach people with respect. I want them to see that I have respect for them and the situation they're in. I don't like to move too fast. I don't like to speak too loudly. I want to be very open in my approach. I want to feel open in my own heart towards them, and I want them to be aware of that. And people do sense it. They, with very few words, sometimes with no words at all.
James Natway's work is frankly astonishing in its diversity, its beauty, and the electrical charge of Natway's commitment to make incredible images even in the face of tremendous personal danger. Natway has a gift in every image for capturing the perfect moment. Sometimes in the midst of some chaotic situation, with machine guns spraying bullets all around, a prostrate photographer will raise his camera and shoot a few frames of his fellow photojournalists crouched down in cover. And in these images, invariably, there is one man, one photographer, who is not crouching down, who is moving forward with his camera pressed to his eye. It is Jim. What Jim is doing in moments like these may appear objectively insane and dangerous. To Jim, it feels like an essential and avoidable act of faith. This is why his work transcends his genre and even transcends the news events he is covering. In freezing these moments of history, often awful moments, he is holding still for the rest of us what is worst in our world. But but by making the result so stirring and our reaction to them so deep, he is in fact expressing what is best about us. He is expressing the idea, the hope, that if we simply know and see and feel these things, we will begin to try and stop them. Signed, Mr. Joshua Cooper Ramo, Chairperson of the Review Committee for Print and Electronic Media of the Dan David Prize, and the members, Professor Orville Schell, Monsieur Jacques Attali, Mr. H.S. Liu from China, Mrs. Andrea L. Mitchell.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Snachtway.
It's a great honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm especially pleased to see a number of my dear friends and colleagues with whom I've traveled down many roads. I'd like to begin by thanking Mr. Dan David for his extraordinary generosity and vision. Thank you, Mr. David. Thanks also to Tel Aviv University and the Board and Administration and Review Committee of the Dan David Prize for helping to realize his vision and for making this evening so special. In my professional life, the mutual trust and respect that's been established with the editors of Time magazine has helped make everything possible. At a time when serious journalism has become crowded by celebrity and fashion and entertainment, my editors have given me a place in their pages with a mandate to dedicate myself to pursuing critical social issues and crucial political conflicts. I'd like to name only a few of those who have given me their wholehearted support. Jim Kelly, the editor of Time, Michelle Stevenson, director of photography, Marianne Golan, Robert Stevens, Hillary Raskin, Alice Gabriner, Jay Colton, Mark Rykoff, and Arthur Hochstein. Thanks also to my wonderful colleagues at the photo agency 7 for joining together to preserve the independence of documentary photographers. To my colleagues in the field, with whom I've shared everything from sleeping space on each other's floors, to lifts in each other's cars, to vital information, to food and water, to comradeship, I want to extend my deepest gratitude and respect. I'm sorry to say that far too many of our colleagues have died with their boots on. They were willing to put their lives on the line because they believed that people's opinions matter. In my mind, that makes them heroes, and they will always remain an inspiration. I want to thank my totally overworked and underpaid assistants, and especially the drivers and translators who have put themselves in harm's way so that I could accomplish my work. Above all, I want to thank from the bottom of my heart the many people I have photographed who have allowed me into their lives, often at moments of dire need and great tragedy, sometimes saving my own life from peril, even though I was a perfect stranger, who trusted me and who never asked for anything in return, except that I tried to tell the truth about what was happening to them. To those people, I owe a debt I will never be able to repay. I'd like to offer congratulations to my fellow laureates and tell you how proud I feel to be among you. That a prize of this stature has been awarded to a documentary photographer is a testament to the power of the still image. Even in the age of television, still photography maintains a unique ability to grasp a moment out of the chaos of history, to preserve it and hold it up to the light. It puts a human face on events that might otherwise become clouded in political abstractions and statistics. It gives a voice to people who otherwise would not have one. If journalism is the first draft of history, then photography is all the more difficult, because in capturing a moment, you don't get a second chance. Hundreds of years from now, when our descendants are trying to understand the times in which we are living, photography will be a crucial part of the record. In the present tense, photography is critical in helping create an atmosphere in which change is possible. Not only possible, but inevitable. It does this by making an appeal to people's best instincts, generosity, the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, the willingness to identify with others, the refusal to accept the unacceptable. In the long run, photography enters our collective consciousness and, more importantly, our collective conscience. It becomes an archive of visual memory so that we'll learn from the past and apply its lessons to the future. It's with a great sense of humility and respect that I accept this award on behalf of all the photographers who have committed themselves to this journey. Thank you very much.
Sympathy, that's what we need, my friend. And sympathy, that's what we need. And sympathy, that's what we need, my friend. 'Cause there's not enough love to go round. No, there's not enough love to go round.
Now you sing it because you know the song. And sympathy, that's what we need, my friend. Come on, wise people. And sympathy, that's what you need. And that's what we need, my friend. 'Cause there's not enough love to go round. Enjoy. 'Cause there's not enough love to go round and round and round.
Sympatia, 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 yes, sympatia. Sympatia, 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 yes, sympatia.
יש לי סימפתיה לאומנות קונספטואלית בתל אביב. עיר בלי קונספציה, טיח נופל, טוריסט מתייפח, אוטובוס מת. ווי ווי! יש לי סימפתיה לאנשים שמתאמצים בתל אביב. יש לי סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה לאנשים שמתעקשים בתל אביב. יש לי סימפתיה לאנשים שמתרגשים בתל אביב. עיר בלתי מרגשת, מעורת ביח לא אשת, נתת פח לא אשת. יש לי סימפתיה לאנשים מתייאשים בתל אביב. יש לי סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה. Yeah, take it, Michal.
יש לו סימפתיה, יש לו סימפתיה, יש לו סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה, יש לו סימפתיה, יש לי סימפתיה. אוקיי, אוקיי.
Beautiful experience we can have, says Albert Einstein, is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Science and art share many keywords, such as creativity, perfectionism, inspiration, curiosity, imagination, and beauty. The scientist does not study nature because it is useful, says the French mathematician Jules-Henri Poincaré. He studies it because he delights in it. And he delights in it because it is beautiful. If nature were not beautiful, it would not be worth knowing. And if nature were not worth knowing, life would not be worth living. I'd like to call upon the rector of Tel Aviv University, Professor Shimon Yankelevich.
A year ago, we witnessed a special moment of elevation and rejoicing when we inaugurated the Dan David Prize. We stand here today at Tel Aviv University, riding the crest of Jewish tradition that during millennia of history has recognized and valued scholarly and intellectual achievement. In the same spirit, we pray that this prize will encourage dedication to science, creativity, originality, and excellence. I view this ceremony as a solemn moment in which we pay our tributes and celebrate the best that the free human mind and spirit can achieve. The book of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, raises the question of what is the advantage of man over the beast. Mutar ha'adam min ha'be'ema. What distinguishes humanity is the desire to pursue new knowledge and apply it, thereby raising the most profound questions and opening debates of emotional, ethical, and social issues. Our uniqueness is what enables us to contemplate our past, improve our present, and dream of an unforeseen future. The Dan David Prize celebrates this human creativity, challenging the frontier of knowledge. Fortunate are the ones who can come up with new questions, discover the secret of nature. In the words of the book of Genesis, we keep eating from the tree of knowledge. That brings us closer to God. כי ביום אכלכם ממנו מעץ הדעת, ונפקחו עיניכם והייתם כאלוהים. Science and culture are truly international languages which cross borders, foster cooperation, and create bridges between people. Politics and science should not be mixed, and we deplore calls for a boycott of the Israeli academia. It is reassuring to see that many scientists and scholars all over the world have issued strong statements against this, and we are encouraged to see here our guests from abroad reaffirming the universality of excellence. I am proud to congratulate the prize winners of this year. As a physicist, I would like to refer to the future dimension of this year's Dan David Prize. I hope my friend, Professor John Bacall, will forgive me for perhaps being somewhat inaccurate. Modern physics confronts the question of the origin of the universe. The standard theory of the Big Bang starts with a big explosion, resulting in a universe that was created as a very simple, homogeneous, and symmetric cosmos. The chemical elements that are the prerequisite for the formation of planets and the origin of life were synthesized at the core of a nucleon, neutron-enriched stars that later exploded and dispersed these elements into the universe. In other words, we are all made of stardust. Thus, metaphorically, we were made to aim high and strive for excellence. Whereas the universe most probably is expanding, it is still finite in size. What is unlimited is human curiosity, drive, and ability to investigate the secrets of nature and apply them, hopefully for the benefit of all mankind.
The opportunity to understand how the universe works, how simple phenomena occur, for example, how a rainbow is formed, that is so much fun. And the sense of enlightenment at a picture which suddenly makes sense is so beautiful that it's irresistible. And we as scientists are in the game because it's fun. We're kids in a sandbox having just a great time. What I think of myself as first is a husband and a father, and then as a scientist. But I have other aspects to my personality too. My hobby is literature, and I was, as a young man, in high school I was thought of as a tennis player. When I, perhaps not well known, when I went to high school, I was excused every day from the last 3 hours of studies to practice tennis. That was my job in high school. So my background is in science is very different from my wives, who had a very strong technical training here in Israel in science in Beit Sefer Tichon. I went to a high school in Shreveport, Louisiana, where I grew up with an emphasis on sports, and my interest and abilities and all of my energies were directed to sports. When I graduated from high school, I had never had a course in biology, in chemistry, or in physics. I never had a course in science in high school because I was excused to play
Venice. That was what I did. So what I am has evolved with time and with circumstances. But I think I defined correctly, and people who know me would say that my personal commitments, my greatest pride and greatest personal interest is first in my family, and then in my science, and then I just happen to love literature. I love novels.
It is my special pleasure to introduce to you Professor John Bacall and read from the report of the review committee that recommended him for the Dan David Prize. Professor Bacall has made fundamental and lasting contributions to an astonishing number of areas of modern astrophysics, ranging from the interpretation of quasar absorption lines to the first detection of a neutron star companion. He is the Richard Black Professor of Natural Sciences at the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton and has received many honorary doctorates, awards and prizes from leading universities and academic institutions worldwide. His work culminated in his outstanding contribution to the field of neutrino astrophysics, in particular as applied to the detection of neutrinos from the Sun. His findings have provided direct confirmation of energy generation by nuclear fusion of hydrogen in the interior of the Sun and have provided new and fundamental information on the field of particle physics, thereby enriching our knowledge and understanding of the future. And here are the words of the review committee. John Bacall was, for over 40 years, the theorist and the driving force behind the development of the detection of neutrinos from the Sun. Neutrino astrophysics is part of a new field of research, particle astrophysics. The Dan David Prize is awarded to Professor Bacall for his outstanding contribution to neutrino astrophysics, the first time an elementary particle has been used for precise quantitative probing of physical process taking place in the cosmic circumstances, the interior of the Sun, simultaneously providing fundamental information in the field of particle physics. This new field of particle astrophysics holds great promise for cosmology, particularly for resolving the problem of the nature of the non-baryonic dark matter, which constitute over 90% of all gravitating matter in the universe and plays a crucial role in the formation of the observed cosmic structure. Signed, Professor Ed Van Hevel, Chairperson of the Cosmology and Astronomy Review Committee, Professor Joseph Taylor, Professor Virginia Trimble.
Ladies and gentlemen, Professor John Bacall.
I would like to express my thanks to all of you by telling you a story that amazes me. In May 2001, scientists announced two important discoveries based on beautiful measurements made in the bottom of a Canadian mine and in a deep underground laboratory in Japan. The scientists used little flashes of light in the bottom of a mine to determine the temperature in the center of the Sun, and to establish the properties of exotic subatomic particles called neutrinos. These discoveries although they are very recent, have their roots in the middle of the 19th century when scientists first began to ask the question, how does the sun shine? In the last century and a half, there have been many essential steps in the struggle to figure out how the energy radiated by the sun was produced. These steps include measuring the chemical composition of the stars and the sun in particular, discovering that 4 hydrogen atoms are heavier than a helium atom, developing the theory of special relativity, studying experimentally the nuclear reactions in stars, which has been done here at Tel Aviv University and at the Weizmann Institute, and the invention of fast computers. Without all of these developments, the underground experiments that I mentioned at the beginning would not have been meaningful. The mine experiments indirectly measure the nuclear reactions that cause the sun to shine, and they make possible all life on Earth. These same nuclear reactions produce exotic particles called neutrinos that interact very little with matter, move essentially at the speed of light, have no electrical charge, and have almost no mass. They are indeed very strange. Neutrinos are captured in underground experiments. In order for the Canadian experiment to work properly, a detector as big as a 10-story apartment building had to be built in the bottom of an active mine where explosions were occurring every day. And over the course of the decade of building of this detector, less than a teaspoonful of dust could be accumulated in the detector. Any of you who've ever tried to vacuum even a small room in an apartment know what an enormous achievement that is. And the elusive neutrinos had to be observed in the mine through the faint flashes of light that neutrinos cause when they occasionally strike electrons. It's hard to catch neutrinos. Observing the flashes of light they cause is one of the very few successful techniques. The first important discovery announced in 2001 was that neutrinos, which come in different types, change their types or their personalities as they come to us on Earth from the center of the sun. The second discovery was the recognition that the standard theoretical model for how the sun produces its energy correctly predicts the total number of neutrinos that arrive at Earth. These experiments with solar neutrinos show that we understand how the stars shine and that we know the central temperature of the sun to better than 1%. I told you at the beginning I was going to tell you a story that I find personally amazing. I find it amazing, almost incredible, that the century-and-a-half-long chain of reasoning about the sun and how it shines, and how neutrinos get to us from the sun, could be tested on the basis of an experiment in the bottom of a mine. And very much in the spirit of the Dan David Prize, I am amazed that so many people speaking so many different languages and living at such different times have collaborated in so many different ways to make it possible that flashes of light in the bottom of a mine could be used to determine the temperature of the sun and the properties of exotic subatomic particles. I am amazed that flashes of light in a mine, the temperature in the interior of the sun, and the properties of neutrinos are linked in such a beautiful way. Thank you.
האישה אשר נתת עמדי, היא נתנה לי מן העץ ואוכל. את קולך שמעתי בגן, ואירה. ערום אנוכי.
ואל עפר תשוב, על יכולך תלך, ועפר אכלת כל ימי חייך, בזה תפך תאכל לחם, עד שובך אל האדמה, בעיצבון תאכלנה כל ימי חייך, כי ארור אתה מכל הבהמה.
כי ערום אנוכי, כי ערום אנוכי.
הנחש, השיעני ואוכל, כי טוב העץ למאכל, כי תאווה הוא לעיניים. ויאמר הנחש אל האישה, לא מות תמותון, לא מות תמותון, כי יודע אלוהים, כי ביום אכולכם ממנו, ונפקחו עיניכם, והייתם כאלוהים, יודעי טוב ורע.
כי ערום אנוכי, כי ערום אנוכי.
מי הגיד לך כי ערום אתה?
מן העץ אשר ציוויתיך לבלתי אכול ממנו אכלת. ויגרש את האדם, ויגרש את האדם, ויגרש את האדם, ויגרש את האדם, וישלחהו מגן עדן לעבוד את האדמה אשר לוקח אישה. לעבוד את האדמה אשר לוקח אישה. מדרשת האדם. ושלחהו מכאן את פן לקח גם את החיים, ואכל וחי לעולם.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dan David.
Mr. President and distinguished guests, ambassadors, prize recipients and members of the board, professors and students, dear friends. A great deal of work has been invested in preparing this year's prize, and these efforts, made in despite all the sad events around us, not only serve to bring us here to recognize the work of our esteemed honorees, but also to plan and prepare for the future of this venture. I believe that the continued prestige and existence of the prize will depend on following and improving the high standard criteria and the efforts that were behind this year's selections. For this, my thanks go to all those who here at Tel Aviv University have helped to put together this event. In particular, to the President of the University, to the Prize Tel Aviv office, its director and staff, and to all of you who prepare these moments which we are now sharing. I wish also to thank the members of the different review committees and the Prize Board of Directors who have dedicated their time, knowledge and professionalism to this enterprise. My interest and appreciation for those who have been selected as prize recipients for this year is particularly strong because I feel they clearly fulfill and embody the true spirit of the prize. One may ask, what do Professor Michel Brunet's discoveries of our oldest human ancestors have to do with Frederick Weissman's dispassionate analysis of American society? After all, so much time and space divide our ape-like forefathers from our own complex and advanced society. One may go on and demand to know why place together James Nachtwey's portrayal of the chaos and mayhem that humans can bring upon themselves, and Professor John Bacall's contributions to our understanding of the inner workings of our star and of the universe. However, behind the apparent contrast between erratic human behavior and the order of natural laws, there is an underlying uniformity, which is a fundamental concept that has guided and motivated our selection of the achievements that we see rewarded here tonight. These are not celebrated just for their academic, educational, or scientific value, but because they represent different but equally precious ways of understanding our world, and through this understanding of reshaping it. It must be understood that the human eye
employs a large variety of lenses through which we view both human society and the universe. All these lenses are equal in importance, and the discoveries that result from them are all tiny, interconnected knots in the net that we cast open the universe to see what bits of understanding we may chance to catch. Our vision of the world depends on this imaginary net where every string and every knot influences the other. For it is unthinkable to extend our knowledge of our present without understanding where we come from, just as we must have a clear and dispassionate understanding of our world today if we are to plan for tomorrow. I would like to finish on a personal note. As we honor here tonight one of the greatest or the greatest photojournalist of our time, I'm reminded that I started my own career as a photographer, dreaming to follow in the steps of the great photojournalists of the past. Many years have passed since I left the art of photography for the business of photography. But it was ultimately this choice that brought me in front of you tonight. Some people believe we choose our own path. Others believe the path is chosen for us. But if either choice or fate has brought me to share this moment with you this evening, I am certainly grateful for it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being with us tonight at the 2003 Dan David Prize awarding ceremony. Allow me to leave you with a quote by Douglas Adams. There's a theory that states that if ever anybody discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There's another theory which states that this has already happened. We hope you have enjoyed this evening and hope to see you all again at the awarding ceremony of the Dan David Prize for 2004. Please remain seated until President Katsav and Mrs. Katsav have left the hall. Thank you and good night.